welcome to my channel. I'm on the way to my first 1,000 subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button and enjoy this story.
My golden boy brother and his fiancée demanded my inheritance for their wedding. When my parents took their side, I exposed a dark family secret. So I'm Mia. I'm 27, female, and the oldest in my family. We're a middle-class bunch, nothing fancy, but we've always had enough to get by. My parents, Anna and Robert, have run this cute little bakery for over 20 years. It's kind of a staple in our small town. Growing up, we weren't rich or anything, but we always had what we needed. My parents worked hard and they taught me and my younger brother, the golden boy Jake, he's 25 male, to do the same. Just for background's sake, growing up, it was no secret that Jake was the golden boy of the family. He could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, and they were always quick to defend him, no matter the situation. Whether it was getting a pass for slacking off in school or being showered with praise for the bare minimum, Jake was the center of their attention. Honestly, I didn't mind much. I wasn't the type to crave the spotlight. I preferred doing my own thing, staying out of the drama, and focusing on my own goals. If Jake needed to be the star, he could have it. It never really mattered to me, until now. Here's where the story really starts. 5 years ago, my granddad passed away. It was rough. He and I were close. When his will was read, I found out he'd left me a trust fund. It wasn't some multi-millionaire jackpot or anything, but it was a decent chunk of money, enough that it could really change my life if I used it right. The thing is, there were strings attached. I can't access it until I turn 30, and even then, it's only for specific things like buying a house or going back to school. At first, I didn't think about it much. I'm not really the kind of person to spend recklessly, so I figured I'd just let it sit there until I needed it. My plan was to either use it for a small apartment in the city or to start my own business, something that's been a dream of mine for years. Anyway, fast forward to earlier this year. Jake got engaged to his girlfriend, Emma. She's 26 and comes from a well-off family. I don't want to sound rude, but Emma's one of those people who just oozes charm. She's the life of the party, super polished, and everyone seems to love her. I liked her too for a while, but then things started getting weird. It was a family dinner a couple of months ago. We were all sitting around the table, and out of nowhere, Emma brought up my trust fund. She said it in this bubbly, casual way, but it caught me off guard. She asked what I was planning to do with all that money when I could finally access it. I mumbled something about maybe buying an apartment or starting a business. Am I the only one who thinks that's a personal thing? I mean, what else was I supposed to say? Emma gave me this big smile and said, "Wow, that's so lucky. You know, Jake and I could really use some help with the wedding or maybe even a down payment on a house." Jake chuckled awkwardly, like he wasn't sure if she was serious. I laughed too, thinking it was a joke, but then she just kept staring at me, like she was waiting for me to agree. It was so awkward. My parents jumped in and said something about how the money was mine and it wasn't really up for discussion. That seemed to end it for the night, at least. After that dinner, though, I couldn't shake the weird vibe. It felt like Emma had planted a seed, and I had no idea how much it was about to grow. Over the next few weeks, every time we had a family gathering, Emma would find a way to bring it up again. She was never super direct, but her comments got more pointed. She'd say things like, "It's so amazing you have that kind of opportunity, Mia. It's just so rare to see someone in a position to really help their family." At first, I'd just let it slide. I'd change the subject or laugh it away, but she wouldn't stop. It wasn't just Emma, either. Jake at first didn't say anything about it, but then he started making comments too. They were subtle, but I could tell he was on her side. He'd say stuff like, "I mean, it's not like you're using the money right now. I get why Emma's bringing it up." I tried talking to my parents about it, hoping they'd step in and set some boundaries, but their reaction surprised me. Instead of shutting it down, my mom said something like, "You know, Emma just wants to feel like part of the family. She's not trying to be pushy." Who said she's pushy? I hadn't even used that word yet, but yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. At this point, I started feeling cornered. I didn't want to cause drama, but I also wasn't about to hand over money that wasn't even accessible yet. Plus, I had my own plans for it. Still, I figured if I stayed calm and stuck to my guns, this would blow over. Suddenly, Emma decided to bluntly tell me her thoughts, in case I didn't understand. She pulled me aside at another family dinner. This time, she wasn't even trying to be subtle. She said, "Mia, I really think you should reconsider what you're doing with that money. Helping Jake and me would be such a meaningful way to show your support for the family. Don't you think it's kind of selfish to hold on to it when you're not even using it?" I was shocked by her boldness. I don't think anyone's ever called me selfish before, especially not to my face. I told her, as calmly as I could, that the money wasn't even available yet and that I had my own plans for it when the time came. She just stared at me, like I'd slapped her, then said, "I guess I misunderstood what kind of person you are." Jake called me the next day to apologize, but it didn't feel genuine. He said something about Emma being stressed with the wedding and how she didn't mean to come across so strong. But then he added, "She's not wrong though. You were in a position to help, and it wouldn't hurt to think about it." At this point, I was starting to feel like I was the crazy one. Was I being selfish? Was I blowing this out of proportion? I decided to talk to some close friends about it, and they assured me I wasn't in the wrong, but that didn't make it any easier to deal with. This whole thing was starting to weigh on me. It wasn't just the comments or the awkward conversations, it was the feeling that my family wasn't on my side. My parents, who I'd always thought would back me no matter what, seemed more interested in keeping the peace than standing up for me. I started to realize that this wasn't going away anytime soon. Emma wasn't the kind of person to take no for an answer, and Jake was clearly on board with whatever she wanted. My parents, they were stuck in the middle, trying to smooth things over without actually addressing the problem. I actually have no idea how far this would go, but one thing was clear. I'm not backing down. Am I overreacting? Tell me what you guys think. To update 1. Hola, amigos. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but things have gotten worse. Like, a lot worse. I feel like I'm stuck in this ridiculous situation with no way out. Anyway, here's what's been happening since I last posted. So, after that awkward conversation with Emma where she called me selfish, I started to notice a change in how people acted around me. It wasn't anything super obvious at first, but there was definitely a shift. At family gatherings, Emma would give me these tight little smiles, and Jake started acting distant. My parents were still trying to play peacemakers, but even they seemed off. Then, Emma started getting bolder. She began this habit of cornering me at family events, always with the same topic, my trust fund. One time, she pulled me aside while everyone else was watching TV and said, "Mia, I've been thinking. What if you just gave us a portion of the trust fund as a wedding gift? It wouldn't have to be the whole thing, just enough to help us with the down payment for a house." I guess that trust fund was keeping her awake at night. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A wedding gift? Who asks for something like that? I told her no again and explained, as politely as I could, that the trust fund wasn't even accessible yet, and even if it were, I had my own plans for it. She gave me this look, like I just told her I hated puppies. "You know," she said, "I thought you cared about your family. Jake and I are starting our life together, and this could make such a big difference for us. It's not like you need the money right now." I was floored. The entitlement was unreal. I walked away without saying anything else, but the whole interaction left me feeling so drained. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, Emma started getting more creative. She began framing the whole thing as a way to bring the family closer together. At one point, she even suggested that my giving them the money would be an investment in the family's future. I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous that sounded. An investment? I was supposed to bankroll their life and expect what? Dividends? What made it worse was how Jake was slowly being pulled into her way of thinking. He wasn't outright demanding the money, not yet anyway. But he started saying stuff like, "Mia, you're in such a good position. You could really make a difference here." It felt like he was testing the waters, seeing how much he could push before I lost it. I tried bringing it up with my parents again, hoping they'd step in. But when I told them what Emma had been saying, their response shocked me. My mom said, "Emma just wants to feel like part of the family, and you know Jake has always had it a little harder than you financially." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Harder than me? We grew up in the same house, with the same parents, and went to the same schools. The only difference was that I'd worked hard to save money and plan for my future, while Jake didn't. My dad chimed in with, "I'm not saying you should do it, Mia, but maybe just think about it. Sometimes keeping the peace is more important than being right." Keeping the peace? Is that seriously their priority here? I started to realize that this wasn't just about Emma anymore. My parents were enabling her behavior, whether they realized it or not. The final blow came a few weeks later when Emma and Jake invited me out for lunch. I figured it was just a casual sibling catch-up, but as soon as I sat down, I knew I'd walked into a trap. After some small talk about their wedding plans, Emma leaned in and said, "Mia, we've been thinking. What if you gave us half of the trust fund? That way you'd still have plenty left for your own plans, and we could start our life together without all this stress." Half? She actually said half. I told her, as calmly as I could, that the trust fund wasn't even mine to access yet, and that even if it were, I had no intention of giving away any of it. That's when Emma's tone shifted. She started talking about how I was hoarding money that could be used to help the whole family, and how it wasn't fair for me to keep it all to myself. Jake jumped in, saying, "I see your point, Mia, but Emma's not wrong. This could really change things for us. You're in such a good position to help." It felt like they were ganging up on me, and I left the lunch feeling completely drained. A few days later, my parents called me over for what they called a family meeting. I walked in to find Jake and Emma already there, looking smug. My parents started talking about how they just wanted to resolve the tension and keep the family together. Then my dad said, "Mia, maybe it's time to consider giving them a portion of the trust. It doesn't have to be half, but something to show your support." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents were pressuring me to give up my inheritance just to keep Emma happy. I told them no, firmly this time, and walked out. Since then, things have only gotten worse. Emma's been talking to extended family, telling them her version of the story. Now I'm getting calls and texts from aunts, uncles, and even cousins I haven't spoken to in years, all telling me I'm being selfish and that I should do the right thing. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. Is this really happening? How did my entire family get sucked into this? I don't know what to do anymore. I've tried setting boundaries, but no one seems to respect them. I'm starting to think I need to take some kind of legal action, but the idea of going that far against my own family makes me feel sick. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. I just needed to get this off my chest. Thanks for reading, and if anyone has advice, I'm all ears. To update 2, hey Reddit. I'm back again. I'm not sure how many updates this will take, but I'm barely holding it together. What's worse is I've realized this isn't just Emma anymore. My entire family seems to be falling apart over this trust fund drama. So, after that disastrous lunch with Jake and Emma, where they asked for half of the trust fund, I thought maybe things would calm down. I'd made it as clear as possible that the money wasn't even accessible yet, and that I wasn't giving them any of it. I was frustrated, but I figured I could just wait for the dust to settle. Then my parents called. My dad asked if I could come over because they wanted to have a chat. He said it in that calm, almost too friendly tone that instantly set off my internal alarm. I asked if this was about Jake and Emma, and my mom said, "Not exactly, but it's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I walked into their house, the first thing I saw was Jake and Emma sitting on the couch. They looked like they were ready for a business meeting, both sitting up straight with fake smiles plastered on their faces. My mom gestured for me to sit, and I realized this wasn't just a casual talk. This was some sort of intervention. It started off light. My dad asked how I was doing, how work was going, all the usual small talk. But it didn't take long for the real reason I was there to come out. My mom started by saying, "Mia, we've all been feeling a lot of tension lately, and we just want to find a way to resolve it." I knew where this was going. I looked over at Jake and Emma gave me one of her signature tight-lipped smiles. My dad chimed in. "We think it would be best if we could come to some sort of compromise." "Compromise?" I asked, already annoyed. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Jake leaned forward, looking as uncomfortable as I've ever seen him. "Mia, we know you've got your own plans for the trust fund, and we respect that, but Emma and I are in a really tough spot right now. We're trying to plan our wedding and figure out our future, and honestly, even a little bit of help from you would make such a big difference." Emma nodded along, jumping in before I could respond. "Exactly. It doesn't have to be half, just something to show that you support us. It's not just about the money, it's about family." That word family was starting to feel like a weapon they were using against me. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. "I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. The trust fund isn't even available yet. And even if it were, I have my own plans for it. I'm not giving it away." My dad shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. "Mia, we're not saying you have to give them half or anything drastic, but maybe consider helping them out with a small portion. It could go a long way in easing the tension in the family." I stared at him, shocked. "So what? I'm supposed to just give them money I don't even have access to yet just to ease tension? How is this my responsibility?" Jake sighed, like he was exhausted from dealing with me. "It's not just about the money, Mia. It's about showing that you care. You're in such a good position right now, and this could really help us start our life together." I looked over at Emma, who was sitting there with this smug expression, like she'd already won. "This isn't fair," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I've worked hard to plan for my future, and this money is part of that. Why should I have to give it up just because you two decided to get married?" Emma's smile faded. "It's not about fairness, Mia. It's about family. Jake and I are trying to build something here, and you have the means to help us. It wouldn't even hurt you to give just a little." My mom jumped in, her voice soft but no less frustrating. "Mia, I think what Emma is trying to say is that this could be a way to bring the family closer together. Sometimes it's better to compromise than to hold on so tightly to something." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents, who had always been so supportive of me, were now siding with Emma. "I'm not holding on to it tightly," I said, my frustration finally breaking through. "I'm following the rules of the trust fund, and I have my own goals for it." "Why is that so hard for everyone to understand?" There was a long silence. Then Emma spoke again, her voice icy. "You know, Mia, I think the real issue here is that you're not willing to put the family first. Jake and I have always supported you, and now that we need help, you're shutting us out. It's really disappointing. I stood up, unable to take it anymore. I'm not shutting anyone out. I'm just not giving you what you want, and that doesn't make me selfish or a bad sister. It's my money, my decision, and I'm done having this conversation. My dad tried to stop me as I headed for the door. Mia, wait, don't leave like this. We just want to find a solution that works for everyone. I turned back to look at them. You mean a solution that works for Jake and Emma, because that's all this meeting was about. If you can't see how unfair this is, then I don't know what else to say. And with that, I left. Since then, I've barely spoken to my parents. Jake and Emma have completely stopped talking to me, which honestly feels like a relief at this point. But the worst part is how isolated I feel. I always thought my family would have my back, no matter what. Now it feels like they've all turned against me, and for what? I'm not sure what my next step is. Part of me wants to just cut them all off, but another part of me is holding on to the hope that things can somehow go back to normal. For now, I'm trying to focus on myself and block out all the noise. But it's hard when the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones causing all the pain. Thanks for letting me vent, Reddit. I don't know what I'd do without you guys. To update 3. Hey Reddit. I'm back with an update, and honestly, things have gone from bad to worse. After weeks of being cornered, guilt-tripped, and painted as the villain, I finally decided to take a stand. It's not what I wanted, but I'm realizing that I can't just keep hoping this will blow over. So, after that last family meeting, I spent a few days trying to process everything. The phone calls, texts, and side-eyes from family members were non-stop. It felt like every day someone new was chiming in, telling me I was selfish or that I needed to think about what's really important. No one seemed to care that this trust fund wasn't even accessible yet, or that it had clear restrictions. All they saw was a pot of money and they wanted me to hand it over. The breaking point came when I got a call from my cousin, Laura. She's one of the few family members who's been supportive through all this. She told me that Emma had been going around at family gatherings, spreading rumors about me. Apparently, Emma was saying things like, Mia doesn't care about family, and it's so sad to see someone prioritize money over their own brother. Hearing this made my blood boil. I knew Emma was manipulative, but going behind my back and trying to turn the entire family against me? That was a new low. To make matters worse, Laura also told me that Emma had been asking other relatives for details about my financial situation. She'd been poking around, trying to find out how much money I actually had and whether there was any way she could access it. That was it for me. I decided it was time to consult a lawyer. I needed to know exactly what my rights were and how to protect myself. So, I booked an appointment with a local attorney who specializes in estate law. When I explained the situation to her, she was shocked. She told me that what Emma was doing, pressuring me, spreading rumors, and digging into my finances, could be considered harassment. She assured me that the trust fund was ironclad and that no one but me would have access to it when the time came. Hearing that was a relief, but it didn't solve the immediate problem. My lawyer advised me to start documenting everything: texts, emails, conversations, anything that could show a pattern of harassment or manipulation. She also suggested that I issue a cease and desist letter if things didn't calm down soon. I spent the next few days going through my phone and saving every message I could find, the text from Emma, the guilt-tripping calls from Jake, even the passive-aggressive comments from my mom. All of it went into a folder. It felt weird, like I was building a case against my own family, but at this point, I didn't know what else to do. Meanwhile, Emma wasn't slowing down. She started posting vague updates on social media about selfish relatives and family drama. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious who she was talking about. Some of the comments were downright nasty, and I started getting messages from people I hadn't talked to in years, asking what was going on. It wasn't just online either. Emma started bringing her campaign into the real world. One of my coworkers pulled me aside at work one day and said, "Hey, just so you know, someone's been asking questions about you. They called HR pretending to be a family member and wanted to know your salary and financial situation." I was horrified. I had no proof it was Emma, but who else could it be? The timing and context were just too coincidental. That night, I called my lawyer again. I told her everything: the social media posts, the phone calls, and the attempt to snoop into my finances. She told me it was time to send a cease and desist letter. The letter was firm, but professional. It outlined all the ways Emma's behavior was inappropriate and warned her to stop immediately. It also made it clear that any further harassment could result in legal action. I felt a little sick sending it, to be honest. I didn't want to escalate things, but Emma wasn't giving me a choice. Within days, Jake called me furious. He said, "What the hell, Mia? You sent a legal letter to my fiancé? Do you know how embarrassing this is for us?" I tried to stay calm. "Jake, I had no choice. Emma has been harassing me for weeks. and I can't take it anymore. She's crossed so many lines. Jake didn't see it that way. He accused me of taking things too far and said I was overreacting. She's just trying to make you see her side, Mia. This is about family, not money. I told him, if it's really about family, then why is Emma going behind my back, spreading lies, and trying to dig into my finances? That's not what family does. The call ended with Jake saying he needed time to cool off. Since then, things have been quieter, but the tension is still there. Emma stopped posting on social media, and I haven't heard from her directly, but my parents, they're furious with me for involving a lawyer. My mom said, "You didn't need to make this a legal matter, Mia. You could have just talked to us." I reminded her that I did talk to them multiple times and they did nothing, but of course, that didn't change her mind. Right now, I'm focusing on protecting myself. I've got everything documented and my lawyer is on standby in case Emma tries anything else. It's not the resolution I wanted, but at least I feel like I have some control again. I just wish my family could see how much this is hurting me. Thanks for reading, Reddit. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. To update 4. Hola, amigos. I'm back with another update just like I promised. Things unfolded in the least way I expected. Funny how sometimes life exposes people without you even trying. So, here goes. The cease and desist letter did what it was supposed to do. At first, Emma went quiet and the vague, passive-aggressive posts on social media stopped. For a few days it felt like things might actually calm down, but of course, it wasn't that simple. My parents and Jake made sure the tension didn't go away. It started with my mom calling me again, her voice sharp and exasperated. "Mia, do you have any idea how much damage that letter caused?" Emma's humiliated, and now the whole family thinks we're falling apart. "Mom," I said, already exhausted. "Emma has been harassing me for weeks. She tried to turn everyone against me, dug into my financial situation, and wouldn't take no for an answer. What else was I supposed to do?" Her response, "You could have handled it better. Sending legal letters to family? That's not how we solve problems." I hung up, realizing for the 100th time that my parents weren't going to see my side, no matter what Emma did. They seemed determined to blame me for escalating things. A few days later, everything blew up in a way none of us could have expected. Jake accidentally sent a group text, meant only for Emma, to a family chat that included me, our parents, and a couple of cousins. The messages, they exposed everything. In the first text he wrote to Emma, "I found the messages you sent to your friends about Mia and the trust fund. Are you serious? You've been bragging about securing the bag this whole time?" Then came the screenshots he attached, messages Emma had sent to someone else, gloating about how she was banking on my parents to wear me down. One of the messages read, "Don't worry, Robert and Anna will push Mia into giving me the money. She's too soft to hold out forever." Another screenshot showed Emma mocking me, saying, "Mia's so focused on her little business dreams that she doesn't even realize how selfish she's being. This money should have been split between the family from the start." Jake's follow-up text to Emma hit even harder. "I can't believe you've been manipulating everyone, including me, just to get your hands on money that isn't yours. This stops now." When those messages and screenshots appeared in the family chat, the silence was deafening. Seconds later, Jake realized his mistake and sent, "Oh no, this wasn't supposed to go here. I'm so sorry." But it was too late. The group chat exploded. My mom was the first to respond, writing, "Emma, what is this? Is this true?" My dad quickly followed with, "Emma, you told us you were trying to work things out peacefully. Were you lying to us this whole time?" Emma scrambled to defend herself, replying, "These are being taken completely out of context. I was venting to friends about how stressful everything has been with the wedding. You've all misunderstood, but no one seemed to buy it, not this time." Jake didn't say anything else in the chat, but the damage was done. Later that evening, Jake called me, his voice shaky. "Mia, I'm so sorry. I was going to confront Emma privately, but I accidentally sent those messages to everyone. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." "Jake," I said, my frustration bubbling just below the surface, "why didn't you say something sooner? You've been defending her for months while she's been doing this behind everyone's back." "I didn't know how bad it was until recently," he admitted. "I found those messages on her phone by accident and I couldn't believe it. I was trying to figure out how to confront her without blowing everything up. Clearly, I failed at that." His voice cracked as he continued. "I let her manipulate me, Mia. I thought she was just pushing for what was best for us, but now I see how far she's taken it. I'm so sorry for everything." I sighed, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "Jake, I've been trying to tell you this for months. Emma didn't care about the family, she cared about getting what she wanted. I appreciate the apology, but fixing this is going to take more than words." He agreed and just disappeared. The fallout from those texts was immediate. Laura, my cousin and biggest supporter, told me later that the family group chat had been buzzing with reactions for hours after I left it. Many of the relatives who had been criticizing me started to change their tune, finally seeing Emma's true colors. But Emma wasn't done. In the days that followed, she tried to save face by calling family members individually and spinning new stories. She claimed the texts were jokes, or that I'd blown everything out of proportion. She said she'd only been acting out because of wedding stress. By then, though, most of the family wasn't buying it. The screenshots were too damning, and her excuses didn't hold water. Jake, meanwhile, stayed quiet for a while. When he finally called me again, his tone was different, more resigned. "I've ended things with Emma," he said. "I couldn't stay with someone who would treat my family like that. I can't believe I let it get this far." I could hear the regret in his voice, but it didn't erase the months of hurt I'd endured. "Jake, I'm glad you're seeing things clearly now," I said, "but you need to figure out why you let her manipulate you and why you defended her, even when the signs were there." And that is it for now. Thank you guys for all your comments. I really appreciate it. I honestly don't think Jake will continue with his relationship, but I'm not sure yet. If anything pops up in my messed up life, I'll post a final update. Final update, hola, amigos. Here's the final update on everything that's happened. I never thought things would go this far, but I'm finally in a place where I can put this whole mess behind me. As for Emma, she didn't go quietly. Laura told me she'd overheard Emma complaining at a previous family event, saying, "This whole thing is Mia's fault. If she'd just done the right thing, none of this would have happened." I heard through the grapevine that Emma and her wedding plans were falling apart. The high-end venue she'd booked was canceled, the dream dress returned. She couldn't afford any of it because she'd been counting on me to fund her vision. Now that her plan had backfired, everything was unraveling. Eventually, Emma disappeared from social media entirely. She stopped showing up at family events and went quiet. It was a relief to have her out of my life, but it didn't erase the damage she'd done. My parents, shaken by everything, started reaching out to me more often. My dad admitted they'd mishandled the situation, and my mom, Emma's biggest defender through it all, finally apologized. "I'm sorry, Mia," she said. "I should have believed you sooner. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't fix everything overnight, but it was a start." Recently, I decided to reclaim my life. I cut off all contact with Emma and set firm boundaries with Jake and my parents. Jake, now separated from Emma, apologized sincerely and began therapy to work through his own issues. My parents also expressed regret, finally admitting they'd let the situation get out of hand. Rebuilding trust will take time, but we're moving in the right direction. This whole ordeal taught me the importance of setting boundaries, standing up for myself, and prioritizing my own happiness. For the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. My relationships are healing, my life is moving forward, and I'm ready to leave all of this behind. Thank you for sticking with me through this journey, Reddit. It's been a wild ride, but I'm finally free to focus on the future I've built for myself.